Good. Sorry, just working on some other things.
Okay.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and cover the minutes first. Are there any corrections, changes? Do you have any motions on the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as was.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll go ahead. We're going to change the order just a little bit and start with the executive director's report to begin with. So,
Okay. Thank you. As far as my report, the reason why we're changing is we have a couple of people here that we want to recognize. Talking a little bit about Supercomputing 2019. That was a conference that was just held in Denver, and we had a huge role with that. Especially Jim Stewart had a significant role with that conference. He was the SciNet chair of the conference. It was a huge conference, state-of-the-art technology conference. We had many of our staff involved with what took place there. We had Kevin Quire, Rich Finlinson, and Brad Miller. They participated for the full year getting ready for the conference. We had Don McHaffey participated with the setup at the show. We had Kat Shimizu, Jolene Hale, Cindy Naharo helped with the communication portion of the show. Jeff Egley, Corey Stokes, Joe Breen, and Jason Iyer. Joe and Jason aren't our employees, but they were part of this SC Tech Challenge. They did a presentation on the 5G Citizens Broadband radio service, a proof of concept for scientific applications. And if you saw all of the presentations that were made in the competition portion of that, it was really impressive to see. It was way over my knowledge level, but it was very impressive. The thing that I thought was most impressive was that they received an award for the very best presentation at the conference. So we have them here and wanted to recognize them and let them know, how much we value and cherish the relationship that we have with you and the things that we are able to learn working with you on a lot of these various projects. Additional staff that helped, Katie Garrett and her team, they helped with the video portion for the Tech Challenge presentation. And then our board member, Dave Long, attended the conference, representing his school district there. And then Jim's wife, she was there. She was his right-hand man or gal, and played a significant role with that. So anyway, it was a great experience. The reason why I'm supportive of having our people participate in conferences like this is because of the opportunity they have to enhance and develop their skill set. They're able to work with people across the country that are at a caliber that's just hard to imagine. And they learn things by being involved at this level that they bring back and use in their day-to-day operational assignments. And so I really do appreciate it. Jim, you did a wonderful job, a masterful job in getting everyone involved. How many total for the SciNet group?
We had a little over 200 SciNet volunteers that were actually part of the team, and then an additional 50 or so that were involved but not actually on the team.
Does that include all students, Jim?
It does include the students.
Jim did a great job.
No, put your mic on there, Jim.
I do have it on.
Oh, okay.
The thing I'd like to really point out, that having Jason and Joe here, is that for the last 2+ years we've been really looking at LTE and spectrum, and we've had a lot of these discussions. We had this opportunity this year to have this tech challenge that I put together an advisory group prior to the beginning of this year that asked us to put a tech challenge together. We did that. This group saw that this was a good opportunity. Kees de Lot, who's a professor at the University of Amsterdam and who headed the jury for the tech challenge, was very fascinated by this because he said it was so different than other high-performance computing efforts that he'd seen and the other submissions for the technology challenge. And so there's a lot of new things happening. Just the computing and how we interface with the compute with 5G is going to change a lot, because instead of trying to munch through all this vast amount of data, you're trying to pick these needles out of the haystack of this data and do something actionable with it immediately. And another thing that I hope it all occurs to all of you, I'd actually done a paper and a submission to TNC, which is the big conference over in Europe, talking about research and the opportunities within community and K-12, and was rejected on that paper because they just said it'd be almost impossible for K-12 to be part of research. And yet the person who really led the team on the 5G and the person who's done most of the real technical study and understanding of this is Jason Eyre from Murray School District. So I hope you all appreciate how amazing this is, that in this high-performance computing where you have all of the national labs and all of the big research universities and all of the major players in HPC, we have someone from K-12 that shined in this and really led us, and we do appreciate that very much. And we also appreciate working with the University of Utah, and Joe is nationally and internationally known for his work, especially for proving out Google's storage issues. But anyway, that's a different thing. But still well known, and for him to be part of this team, it just shows the strength of the UETN collaborations around the state and around the nation.
So Jim, what did you learn? What were some of the things you learned that will really help the Utah Education Network in the future?
Well, we have been able to, I don't know, this is a learning thing, but one of the major things that we got out of this is that we had Sienna work very closely with us and is willing to help us in a lot of our research efforts going forward. They've donated $50,000 worth of wave servers to us as a part of this. Internet 2 is going to, we've gone from last year when I was talking to you about it costing us $85,000 a year to connect to the research platform at Starlight in Chicago. Internet 2, because of this collaboration, is going to donate that to us this year. So there are actual really cost savings. But what I learned the most from this, and maybe this helps me more personally than this organization, but we can take these principles that we have here in Utah, where we care about people, we care about working together, we want to collaborate. And we took a group that has been great about technology, but really not collaborated well in the past. And we showed those principles of caring about individuals and collaboration, and really were just amazingly successful in engaging people. I don't know how to quantify it, but the level of engagement from the SciNet staff this year, and I can and will provide a report out to the SC19 executive chair, and I'll share that with all of you, of all of the firsts and all of the accomplishments. We have a long list of accomplishments that we were able to realize this year. So.
I'd also throw out that there was some good learning there. To answer Steve, the work that Kevin Quire and Matt May did with telemetry, I think is actually that was some good. This is where you are getting live feeds from the routers and switches, and the question is, how are we going to deal with some of this data as we go forward? How do we quantify and qualify the network so that it makes sure that you can detect impacts very rapidly and respond? And that's, I think that was something that they did in the experimental night. And then the stuff that, of course, that Jason has done there, we proved out, we got a lot of measurements of the LTE that we deployed in there. So that was very useful, so we can see what can we deploy at a K through 12. And the question is, now that we can prove out that, what are applications that work well to say from K through 12 through the high performance computing? And are there opportunities there, both from a research as well as making things better at the K through 12 involved? I don't know if you want to comment briefly.
Sure. And there was an overall winner of the contest, and it wasn't us, and we're not embarrassed at all because the type of data and things that they were doing. One of the competitors was doing analysis on about 8 different radars and trying to better protect human life in Texas and in the South where I used to live. And I had a great appreciation for that. And the third one, I don't know if Joe could even explain it to me because it was a very, very advanced. It was the one that won. But what we learned from this situation is they had over 300 Wi-Fi access points at this conference on the conference floor in the area to make it happen. On the last day of the conference, just for testing purposes, we actually shut down. We had 4 access points and we shut it down to 1. And we're able to reach the entire exhibitors hall and have service in each corner. So we're able to see the potential coverage-wise. And the great thing with the SciNet network was there were so many, as Joe was mentioning, diagnostics and analytics being done. We could take and look at the heat maps and see if what we were doing on LTE as we turned up different places from around the room, if it had any impact on the Wi-Fi. And we found that it didn't have an impact on the Wi-Fi. And we found that we should be able to look at LTE in K-12 and then bridging into higher ed, because I think that the use cases are even just as compelling, if not more compelling in higher ed. They're going to be great complementing technologies. They're not going to interfere with each other, and you're going to be able to assign what works best to the different types of network. And I think in the future, that's more of what we're going to do, is expand on this and look at more of, now that we know the network's there, what can we do with it? And I think the next year will be really powerful and empowering for us, because we had to get new devices 3 weeks ago because the technology changed as the FCC iterated. And we will see availability of devices like the iPhone 11 and other things that are coming that we'll be able to do more and more with the LTE side of the network as we have more devices that can use it and make use of it. So I'm very excited.
To just one more comment there, to Jim's first point about being about the people. What we identified is not only, now we characterize the technology a bit. What are the applications that could maybe make school districts safer, or this is where we're looking at, can research come in and help with some of the safety drills. We've got computation, we have visualization up in HPC. There are, the way the K-12, or at least the Murray School District, or they have certain drills. Can we look at those and use this technology to say, hey, can we see kids streaming out and make sure that they are going the right way? Or these are things that we're brainstorming a little bit. So in the end, it's really about these applications that matter to the K-12 pieces, but we need to maybe apply a little bit of research for others and use the network to glue it all together. So this is, this is a whole solution. This isn't just technology pieces, but how can we make things better through the use of the technology?
Absolutely. And when Joe says drill, you probably think of fire drills, which are probably what you all experienced when you were in school. But now we're doing reunification drills, where school is letting out. Think of the school shooting type situations that have happened. The news is now talking about the reunification points and where people are getting back together. And the state is requiring every school to do reunification drills where the school evacuates to a place that's been appointed off-site. Parents come and identify themselves and receive their children. And we hope that LTE is a great technology because it can reach outside of the campus if implemented correctly. And we're trying to see in Murray specifically if the LTE with an outdoor access point on the school could reach our reunification points and what we can learn if we put cameras along the way as we're doing these drills. This is just the start of it, but we do hope that what we can do, having a network in place that helps us gather data and make meaning of that data, is to really help understand what's really happening with those new types of drills. And hopefully we can come up with some suggestions and improvements for this process that's very new for everyone in education that could eventually save lives and make these experiences not quite as miserable.
Do we have a technical roadmap that outlines this in writing as to what you're planning?
It's been just coming together over the past few weeks
Okay.
as we've been learning.
I think that would be nice. Also, what we plan to do with 5G, I know it's out there a ways, but how that will impact, and how we are interfacing with the power project, to making sure that we learn from them what they're finding out.
Is that
To
something
the powder project.
you'd like on a future agenda?
I really would, yeah.
Get a report.
I think that would be great. And we went to the powder project when we turned up our LTE network in Murray for advice and to make sure that we weren't putting money in a direction trying to be the best stewards of our taxpayer dollars. We looked at open source alternatives that they were doing at the powder project as well and have found them to be a huge partner as we're going out with this.
So we have quite a chance to be a leader in this field because of the fact that we have a statewide network. And 5G is going to be quite a phenomenal technology, depending on who wins this war. So I think we ought to have a report on that, just what the technical roadmap is, how we're going to deal with this, and how this meeting you just went to helped inform us about moving forward.
Steve, if I could make a point, this wasn't just a stunt that we did at this conference. We actually did some things at the Tech Summit in June. We followed up with some other learning that we did at the Utah Saint Conference. Then here at this conference, we're going to continue to do that, and I imagine that although we're going to pull back significantly, I think that most of us have had enough of SC for a while, and Kevin, Rich, myself, we're not going to be participating with SC next year, but we will continue to be interested in going to the conference and submitting further. We hope to do the tech challenge again next year. If they do that, we'll be part of that. But we want to continue building our knowledge and capabilities, and we want to be a leader in the country on this particular technology and how to implement that. And I'd just say also that I think one of the most enduring benefits that we will have is that we learn and we know that we've got to transition SciNet and what they're doing from a hardware-based, circuits-based endeavor to a software and services-based endeavor. And we have put together a coalition with ESNet, Internet2, UEN, SciNet, University of Amsterdam, and some others that will use that to help push SciNet along, but it also will be directly beneficial to UETN as we look at instrumenting our network and the changes that we're going to make going forward.
I was visited by Andy Buffmeyer. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, we've been talking to Andy.
And I guess with 5G, there's greater potential for better security. Of course, incredible speeds at the edge, maybe the elimination of fiber in schools. So this seems to be a big thing. And he thinks we need to partner together, and we can talk about that later, but I think this is something we really, as a board, ought to be informed on and know about.
So where's the next year's conference located?
Atlanta. Yeah, we'll be.
What's it? I know it grows every year. Do you know what the attendance was this year?
13,950 was the last number that they gave us on the final day of the conference. That'll probably go up a little bit from there.
That's big.
I asked the ACM representative that was there, and that's the host this year. I said, you couldn't round up 50 more people to get to 14,000?
All right, well, thank you so much. You're welcome to stay if you want for the rest of our meeting, or you're welcome to leave. You know, whatever you choose. So we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Do you want me to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. You have in your packet the legislative funding request. I don't know that we need to go through in detail. We've talked about it the last 3 board meetings, but you do have it. If you do have any questions, I'd be glad to talk about it with you. We have 2 real requests. The first is to reinstate our appropriation to ongoing funding. Now that I don't know what they're doing with the tax issue, but we want to have that taken care of as they promised they would. And then we have 2 requests. One is for growth and operations, and the other is for consortium software. And the details are in the handout for you. And the locations for new connectivity are listed. The network segments that will be upgraded are also listed on the back side of that. Are there any questions that you do want to talk about at this point regarding our funding request?
So they will resolve the tax situation?
I don't know that they're going to get to that or not.
I just wondered if that's going to make it so it's not ongoing and it's one time again next year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's gone a different direction than I originally thought it would. Okay, the next thing is just a brief update on the Burwood Group. As you know, Deb LaMarche is retiring the end of June and has done an excellent job working with the telehealth. And so we need to hire a replacement, and their recommendation was the sooner the better, so that we can have some overlap, that the new individual that we hire can see what's been going on and glean as much as they can from Deb. We have posted the position. We've received applications. We're in the process of starting to review those applications, and we'll have a selection committee in place and be coming back and letting you know who that individual will be to take that over. We've seen some real success with the Universal Service Fund, particularly on the E-rate side. Let me just share with you some of the things that have happened. In November of 2018, we completed an 8-month selective review competitive bidding audit. It was a 100% audit of every single thing that we have done on putting out RFPs for 2018. After 8 months of going through all of our documentation, they came back with no findings. And I can't tell you how much staff time that took to provide the information that they needed. But that clean bill of health it really makes me feel proud of our team on what they've done.
Did Lisa Kuhn have anything to do with this?
Lisa had a little bit to do with it. But, you can tell by her beaming face there, So anyway, nice job, Lisa. And share with your staff how much we appreciate the way that they handle all of this.
That's amazing.
The second thing is we're becoming more and more actively engaged with school districts in helping them with their Category 2 appeals. We are the consortium filer for E-rate for Category 1. That's the wide area network. Category 2 is more for the district and within the buildings. And we have, it's a very complicated process, and districts have been pretty much on their own to do their Category 2 filings. But when they get in trouble and they can't understand how to get the funding that's been denied, they come to us, and our team is more than willing to help. A couple of examples. Jordan School District received 0 funding from their application. They came to us, and they were able to receive $350,000 for Category 2. We helped them with that. Granite School District had several issues with their application. They were denied. We were working with them and they were able to receive $608,000 for Category 2. So we're there to help our stakeholders. If districts need help, we're more than willing to reach out and help. In February of this year, we filed an appeal. We had applied for funding for a fiber build project, for the San Juan Phase 1 fiber build project that we finally went through the appeal process. That was just recently announced that we will be receiving an additional $345,000 plus because we were able to convince them that some of the funding they were withholding was legitimate. Then we have, so for 2019, we received over 2018. We received over 12.5 million in E-rate reimbursements. And then for this year, for 2019, we've applied and received almost all of 24 million reimbursement for E-rate dollars. And that includes 7.1 million for the San Juan Phase 2. So that has been approved to move forward with that. So we received almost all of that, just a little bit still hanging out there. And then the last one is the rural health care. We're seeing more approvals as we make those applications, and we're still concerned with some denials that we've had. We're working with an attorney that is a specialist in the area in helping us put together the appeal for that. So we'll hopefully be able to receive the funding from some of the back years on that.
It's outstanding.
So again, our E-rate team, our rural health team, great job that they do. Then the last thing I just wanted to share with you is we're having our all staff winter business meeting on Friday. We'll start out with breakfast. It's at the Officers Club at 8:30. You're invited to attend if you would like to come. And we'll be giving awards to staff members and do a little bit of training. And
what day was that?
8:30 on Friday at the Officers Club. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Well, can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Those of you should all know that this is Ray Walker's last board meeting. He and his wife are going on to bigger and better things. And we're much appreciative of what he has done. So we have a certificate of appreciation for this. Will you stand up, Ray? I want to just share this with you. This says, whereas Ray Walker has served 17 years as a leader on the UETN board, the UEN steering committee, and other network committees, I think it's actually closer to 20 than it is 17, because he was involved before I was, and anyway. And whereas his diligent guidance and collaboration have facilitated world-class connectivity and online services to public schools, libraries, colleges, universities, clinics, health departments, and hospitals. And whereas he has thus served millions of students, educators, faculty, staff, librarians, viewers, patients, clinicians, and healthcare providers. Now, therefore, the Utah Education and Telehealth Network hereby honors Ray Walker with this Certificate of Appreciation, December 4, 2019.
Speech. I'm not good at speeches, but I do remember in looking back, I know I was involved with some of the technical steering groups before I was involved with the full steering committee, but don't know when I started, to be honest with you. But I have enjoyed all of my time working with UETN, and all the staff here. I have a lot of fond memories, and the other board members and steering committee members over the years. I've been taking a few trips down memory lane recently and thinking back over some of the things that have happened over the last 19 years of being involved specifically with the IT organization at UVU and here, and my time as an educator. 33 years at Utah Valley University, and it's been a great opportunity to serve with all of you, and fond memories. Jared and I go clear back to the Provo campus, and
he taught me about CTE.
So it's been very enjoyable, and all of the things that have happened. I really appreciate all of you and the influence you've had on my life, and the opportunity to serve with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and move into the action items. First item is the proposed 2020 schedule. It's proposed for the new meeting schedule for the new year, February 21st, April 24th, which would probably be the retreat, June 19th, August 21st, October 23rd, and December 9th. Any concerns, questions, problems? Look good to everybody? Any motion?
I move we accept the proposed meeting schedule.
It's been moved to accept the meeting schedule and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's go to the policy affirmation item then. As you know, we work obviously with the corporate for public broadcasting, and we have to reaffirm regularly our policies as required by that. So there's policies listed in the materials for closed captioning, diversity, public broadcasting, editorial integrity, and website accessibility. Laura, do you want to make any comments on this, or any thoughts, concerns? We did have them presented to us before, so. Seeing no thoughts and concerns, I'll take a motion.
You're shy today.
It's been moved that we reaffirm these policies.
I second that.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to the USBA request to provide internet access to their building.
Let me just
Go ahead.
take this. I really think that I could have pulled this from the agenda. I don't know that it really requires board action. I just want to explain why the Utah School Board Association is not listed under category number 1 on the connection policy, but it does say public education. And when you look in state statute, the Utah School Board Association does represent school districts and represents superintendents through the Superintendents Association. So I really think that when it just says public education, including, and it has a list of, I don't think that's all inclusive. And I believe I could have done this on my own. I'll accept your correction if I'm wrong, but I don't want to be bringing things to you like this that are unnecessary, and I think this maybe is a learning experience for me and maybe for you as well. Are you comfortable in me saying that falls under public education, therefore we should be able to connect them to the internet through our network?
There's no problem legislatively or with E-rate, I guess.
No, there's no problem with that. Okay.
So do we even need a motion?
So no, I'll just pull
We'll
that
just
off.
pull it off
Yeah.
Doesn't need an action item. Next item, obviously because of my retirement, we need to elect a new chair from our membership. So we will begin by taking nominations. Anybody's willing?
Do you want me to say something?
I can nominate.
I'm not a
Robert
board.
Wag.
I'm not a board member, but the last time we had board elections, Gary Covine expressed some interest. So I talked to Gary about it, and Gary said, not at this time. He felt like Robert would be the best person to serve. So I talked to Robert, and Robert cannot be here today because he's in President's cabinet meeting, Utah State. But Robert is willing to serve. So I'll just provide that information for you. And Patty, was your desire to stay as vice chair and not as chair?
Yes.
Okay.
I move that. Whatever that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll move that Robert Wagner be appointed as the chair and Patty is the vice chair.
Second that motion.
Any comments on the motion? It's been moved and seconded to appoint Robert as the board chair.
I move the nomination cease.
And it's been moved that nomination cease.
We got motions
Aye.
stacking up.
I know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So Robert Wagner will be the new board chair, and Patty will continue, and we appreciate your service, Patty. Thank you for doing that. Let's go ahead and move on then to the UETN Advisory Committee. There's the 2 rural health representatives that we need to approve to serve on that advisory committee, Jaden Bryan and Locke Ettinger, I believe. Ettinger. Any comments, concerns? Any motions?
I make a motion to approve the 2 as listed.
It's been moved to approve the 2 that have been listed.
I'll second that. This is Gary.
Thanks, Gary. It's been seconded.
Oh, Gary joined us.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we can now move on to the advisory council reports. Rick, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. We met as an advisory council just prior to Thanksgiving holiday, and it was a learning opportunity, an opportunity to see what part of what the legislative request is really about as far as consortium software, and to get feedback on several items that annually we need to get feedback. And so Laura had arranged for Danny Sloan and Jared Boston to help conduct the meeting, and all of the agenda items were put into Nearpod, which is part of that consortium software. It would be an interactive learning platform in that. And it was one of the best educational experiences I've been in a long time. One of the most productive meetings that I think we've had as an advisory council. We had very good attendance. We only had about a half a dozen people here at EBC, but we had another 10 to 15 spread out across the state. And it was and by using that platform, whether you were in the room or remote, it was really the same. It was just very, very well done. So kudos to the staff for their help in putting that together and giving us that opportunity to actually experience experience that, but also the feedback that we were able to gather on a variety of different things. And Laura, maybe you can just share a little bit of some of the things that they did to get feedback and the kind of feedback you were able to get.
Thanks. We had questions about the annual report and what their recommendations would be for putting our best foot forward with the annual report. Some questions about programming on the TV channel. Some questions about marketing and language that we should use to describe our services, and a couple other kind of warm-up questions. And Nearpod was recently released for higher education as well as K-12, so we had a bit of a conversation about that and how it might apply for adult learners as well.
And we've had lots of meetings where we've asked for feedback, but I don't think we ever got to the depth of getting really good feedback as we were able to get that when people were just, even though we were in a conversation much like we are right here today in that, but everybody interacting through their own device. It was just a really good experience. So. And something I'm going to take back and work with Jennifer in our team to be able to do that for a staff meeting, which it just made it a great experience. And we're going to be getting a license for the agency and that, and so I would recommend that we test it out across the agency. So. But I think it also showed, the importance of this request. This would be, and for students, whether they're adult learners or students in classrooms at the elementary or in the high school classroom, the feedback that we have been hearing is that it really changes the dynamics of the classroom. So that's our report.
Thanks, Rick. Deb, are you going to talk about UETN?
I can just very briefly say we have a meeting tomorrow, and I think our last meeting was the retreat, which I don't know if... Anyway, the retreat focused on two things. It was, I think I have spoken since then. Our group has been really looking at telehealth reimbursement, and we're making sure that we don't cross the line in terms of promoting anything. I can't, and any of our staff can't do anything as far as promoting it, but just because we can't go to the legislature. But our group of advisory council members, many of them don't have that restriction, and as an advisory council, it's something that they're putting a lot of effort into discussing and trying to figure out how to move forward with. So that's been big, and then the other was the Burwood Group report and making sure we follow up with that. And those are the two big things right now. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Good job.
Gary, do you want to talk about the Technical Advisory Committee?
Sure. I don't think we've had a committee meeting since our last board meeting. I think our last one was in September. But we have one scheduled for January. I think we're looking at the first part of January. So we'll have more to report on that next time.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate that. So scheduled the next meeting for February 21st for the next board meeting. Based on the approved new schedule, are there any other meeting agenda items? Anybody?
I don't have meeting or agenda items, but I just wanted to share something, but I don't know if right now's the time to share something.
Sure.
Is that okay? Thank you. I had the opportunity last week, or a week and a half ago, Utah was selected as one of the states in the nation for educational innovation. And it was actually selected as the state to represent the United States. And so I was able to go to China where there was an international conference on educational innovation. And while I was there, the proposal that was sent in, we were actually selected as then to represent one of 7 countries in the world about educational innovation, and then to be on a panel that represented the work that's going on in the state of Utah. And I think that I want to share 2 things from that. One is the work that UETN has done to make that possible and to be able to have the innovation across the state. And the number one thing that was stated from all the countries in the world where Utah actually became the lead and was in the newspaper articles that were sent to me in Chinese, and I can't read them. I did the translate stuff. It doesn't translate so well, but if anyone can do that for me, that'd be awesome. But the thing that really stood out is that that innovation has really relied on the work that UETN has done, providing access and equity across the state, and having that as a lens in which this work has been done. And with access and equity across the state, now we're able to then do the digital teaching and learning, which was happening, which context mattered. It was according to what every district needed at that time instead of a one-size-fits-all model. That was new across the world because most people did one thing and they tried to say, we're all going to do this one thing and then we can get results on this one thing. So that was really innovative to them. Then the third part that went along with that is the portrait of a graduate, and that's the second piece that I wanted to share just in some of the work that USBE is doing. The portrait of a graduate has been underway for the past year. We've been working on that and going throughout the state and talking with stakeholders. We talked with everyone from universities, freshmen, students coming into universities, students who just graduated who were going to technical school. We talked to teachers, we talked to parents, we talked to business. The stakeholder group was huge. And throughout that, some of the things that we found out is like our freshmen at universities, we went in and we said, what is it that you wish you would have known when you graduated that you wish you had more of? And what they said they wish they had more of was financial literacy. They said, I now have debt, I have to pay my own bills, I have to make my own decisions. Another thing is they didn't know how to advocate for themselves. They didn't know how to ask the questions to get them answers for the concerns that were going on in their life. So they didn't know how to do these things. So the state board adopted our new portrait of a graduate, which has 13 different elements in it. So prior to that, accountability has just been about achievement, an achievement on a test. And that achievement on a test would show you your SGP, your growth percentage, and then it would show you your actual achievement. And then all the other scores kind of hinged on that one thing. Well, now we're moving towards accountability and competencies in 13 different areas. Academic achievement is just one of them. So we have mastery, autonomy, and purpose. In mastery, one of 3 elements is achievement, but there's also wellness, digital citizenship. There's all of the things that go along with it that when you look at what it means for a child to be educated in the state of Utah and what we really believe in the state of Utah, those are the things, and almost technology is included in almost all of those elements. So what's amazing about that, and what took I would say the world by storm, because afterwards there was a lot of media attention, is the fact that in Utah, and the work of UETN and being able to provide that digital access to folks and digital assets and whatnot, technology now with our students is the background noise. It's the white noise. It's expected. They no longer go, oh, this class has technology. To them, it's an expectation. And so then it's about the learning and the human-centric component of what students know and are able to do to create and be the ones who are developing the code, that they are the ones who are saying, here's a problem and a solution to that problem, doing things that computers can't do and making those decisions. And so I think that a big thank you to all of you, because there's worldwide attention because of the work that's being done and creating that foundational experience so that students can, and then in the state of Utah, that really impacts our economic development. And so with our economy, that's why our business partners are moving in. Utah is, I think it's 33% of our state has a bachelor's degree or above, and we are one of the top 3 most educated states in the nation of those that have educational attainment. So they're moving in saying it's a young population. We have one of the smallest poverty rates and the largest middle class, and with the ability, number 1 in the nation, to have upward mobility because of those things. So you can come in having nothing in the state of Utah, and through education and opportunities be able to succeed at a higher rate than any other state in the nation. So thank you to the work that you're doing.
Wow, that's impressive. So I'm just curious, in the stakeholder interviews that you had, why do some kids not go to college?
Some kids don't go to college because they feel like some have UTEC, so we can say college and career ready, but some that aren't going to college haven't found what pathway they want to go down yet. So they want to be able to have some of those experiences. They're being told, different things about that. The number one reason that we found, we actually interviewed youth in custody as well, and their experience was a little bit different, and this might help answer that question. When we went and interviewed our youth in custody, and we said, so tell us why you're here and what could have happened educationally that might have helped your educational trajectory that you might not be where you're at now. And they actually took responsibility, and they said, it's really not the educators, it's us. But now think of this as what they said. They said, we didn't feel engaged in what was happening. We felt like what was happening in the classroom wasn't about us. But that really is about educators, because we haven't had the time to connect with them to be able to say what would engage you and what does that mean to connect in your lives. And so that's with this whole new 13 elements. It's really about personalized learning and personalizing the how. So the expectations remain the same. We have high expectations and standards for all, but how those are obtained and how you demonstrate the competency towards attainment can be personalized per student. And so with that in mind, that's really a lot of the conversation that was going on, is how do we engage them so that they feel that is them and it represents their pathway in life moving forward.
And so, go ahead, please. No, I was so in relationship to that, is this report known by the universities and colleges, ATCs?
I don't know. It's a collection of reports that we put together, and we have a slide deck that when we went across and put it all together, we worked with the governor's office, we worked with GoEd, just a lot of educational partners in creating this report and putting it all together. And but we haven't.
I'd love to see it. I mean, is there some way we
share that slide deck?
We can slide that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great. The other is, did you differentiate between urban and rural?
When we were going throughout, I can double check. We have all of the Qualtrics surveys. We had so many different ways of doing that. So through Qualtrics, I'll ask. And Sarah Young, who we all know is amazing in this room, she's the one who helped develop, and we went on our roadshow across the entire state through different stakeholders, and a lot came back through Qualtrics. So I'll ask if that's one of the ways we can disaggregate that report.
Boy, if we could get our hands on that. Because enrollments are kind of flat across the state, and it's because we're not quite adaptable enough. And I think what you've identified is maybe it's just not as relevant. At least they don't see the value proposition.
Is everyone in here familiar with the prime legislation that's going to be put forward? No. That is put forward. They just have to. It's open because we had some folks talking about it already at the governor's summit. And so with the prime, it's called prime, but it's a K-20 new way of thinking and being. So in our secondary education, we kind of have a lot of our lower socioeconomic populations, or those who have been vulnerable populations in the past, who aren't engaging in concurrent enrollment and AP courses. The reason why is because they're not sure what that means or what colleges will take. So we've really been working with several universities and legislators in creating a prime course. It's like a pathway, and there's 3 different levels, and I can't remember which each level is, but the final one is transform. But what it is it takes our CTE, or our current enrollment, AP, and university courses, and it creates this entryway. And with this piece right here, they'll receive a certificate that actually bundles those together as a property right. And then assuming public universities will have reciprocity with those, so that they actually have that, and they don't say, well, I'm sorry you came to our university, but we have this humanities course instead of this for you to be able to achieve this. So there are actually 3 different levels that go with that, so that they can just have a smoother pathway in, and they can feel that they have this property right that is theirs. Because part of the studies show that with uncertainty, then students don't want to engage. The more certainty that's there, the more they'll engage. So if they feel like that you can bundle these courses together and that's theirs, and all of those courses can be used in their educational attainment to achieve a degree, then they will engage more than just taking a course here and a course there. So then we can bundle smaller bundles together to be able to stack to get to where they need to be. It's called Prime. Yeah. And Senator Milner and Representative Val Peterson are the ones sponsoring that.
What will the legislation do?
The legislation will create common language and reciprocity with public institutions, that type of thing. as soon as we get that all the way written, so it's public, but it hasn't been, the underwriting hasn't occurred, so, but that we have presented it, so it's there. As soon as we get that, I can forward it onto this committee to be sent out to this board.
Boy, any of that information I would love to hear it. This is something I've never heard about. I mean,
Okay. Oh, so yeah, it's been under wraps, and so when they just barely announced it, they said we could start talking about it. Yeah.
Maybe you could give your presentation at one of our next meetings.
More than happy to.
It'd be great to go through all of that.
But I would say that internationally, they were just floored. Yeah.
That's great.
So,
thank
to
you.
everyone.
Boy, that is awesome.
Anything else? Now I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
It's been moved to adjourn,
I second that.
and it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If we vote for it, then you're gone.
I know. We don't, that's why I had to come. I know.
If we don't, then you stay.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks, Sheriff.
I don't know that it's right that we're gonna have the chair and the director don't have the same name.
No longer Ray Square.
So 30 years. Was it UBCC when you started?
UTC.
You go all the way back to 10. That's so cool.
Your meeting has